All right, so okay, the cold and flu season is here. So how does it go again? Feed a cold? Or is it starve a fever? Or is it starve a cold, feed a fever? Well, the question is, does any of it make any sense no matter how you slice it? Well, today we're going to get to the bottom of it. Oh, and what about that nagging cough of yours? Well, surprises are coming, so stay right here. It's a Health Quest Saturday morning with me, Dr. David Kolbaba.
It's Health Quest Radio. It's Dr. David Kolbaba on AM 560. The Answer.
All of our radio show podcasts are available in the iTunes Store. Look under Adventures in Health. Download us on your iPod and take us with you.
Let's do it.
All right, we're back. Thanks for being with us. Chicagoland's longest-running health news and science show with me, your host, Dr. David Kolbaba. Tomas is over there holding the microphone down.
Yes, I am.
It's funny how we hate the winter here in the northern plains. I don't know. It was good to say plains. Yeah, we'll say northern plains.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's no northern plains. It's just winter. Come on, you had a year to get up for it. The winter survival kit, awesome. We've got many items in the list for you to use to help you strategize what to do in the wintertime. Hopefully you're enjoying it. I wish we had more snow. Maybe about 15 feet of snow every season, no salt on the highways, and a little mountain range out west near Rockford. Well, I'll tell you what, getting to the subject of what to do with our cold and flu, and some of us are living with a nagging cough. And with us today is Dr. Gustavo Ferrer. He's an experienced pulmonologist, trained in both Cuba and in the U.S., founder of the Cleveland Clinic, Florida Cough Center, also president of the intensive care expert based in Weston, Florida. He's written a book, and frankly, I've got to say, good morning. How you doing, Doc?
I'm doing great.
Nice to have you be with us today. Actually, I was saying to you right before the show began, you wrote my book. I was supposed to write this book.
Oh, goodness. We have to do it together again.
Yes, I got to tell you. You know, interesting that the day before yesterday, I was with your education, some of it, your medical education coming from Cuba. Interesting that a title to a medical paper was written a couple days ago, published that is, U.S. patient mortality is lower with non-U.S. trained physicians. That was just published on the 2nd regarding patients and their well-being with doctors who've gotten some education somewhere else but here. What do you think about that? Pretty remarkable.
Well, I read that this morning, and it's very interesting. I don't know exactly, I got to go into the details of the study, but I will say that it's probably, in my point of view, coming from Cuba, is we tend to look at the whole picture. And medicine, unfortunately, in the last few years or few decades have been kind of fragmenting the service of medicine, doctors seeing the patient. So we believe more in kind of a full holistic approach, even from the specialty's point of view.
Yeah. Isn't that kind of sort of our of our own doing as doctors, where we really almost, in a sense, at least in this country, we don't want to see a patient unless they're manifesting symptoms. That doesn't fare too well with a patient. I mean, I have a sense that what we do, we misuse the word prevention and mix it up with the word early detection. It's almost, isn't it true, wouldn't you say, we don't expect to see a patient unless they're suffering?
And that is exactly right. And, and this is a different topic, but I always struggle with the system that we have of codes, that there's no codes for healthy people or people that they are functional with chronic diseases. We got to find something for them.
No, I hear you. And you authored the book cough cures. Boy, I tell you what, just hang around people in a conversation and somebody keeps clearing their throat or coughing. My question is, what possessed you to dive into this? Because as a pulmonologist, I know you've got a personal and professional interest in it, of course.
Absolutely, but the main trigger of the idea of writing the book, it was actually my wife.
Oh.
I was in training, doing my pulmonary medicine at George Washington University in D.C., and my wife was taking care of our 3 kids, toddlers, and, those years that they're coughing, and since they're coughing almost every day. And so she was going back and forth to the pharmacy and bringing some of those medications over the counter. And I knew that research kept popping up everywhere and saying, you know what, they have a lot of side effects. There are a lot of issues with those over-the-counters. Many of them, they don't even work. And we keep giving those to our kids. So I'm right there and then, it triggers my curiosity, and she's my inspiration, my wife. And I told her, I'm going to write something about this. It took a bunch of years, okay? It took about 4 to 5 years to do the whole research, search, and organizing the whole book. But it was that was the origin.
I read a book recently, one of the most interesting books about Fawcett, who was an explorer in the Amazon. And I know that you, interesting, when you completed your medical training, that you led a United Nations research project searching for tuberculosis among the native Indians of Venezuela's Orinoco, the river basin there. That is an interesting story in and of itself.
That's exactly right. This is one of the most interesting times in my life. I left Cuba after my pulmonary training in Havana, and I led a group of researchers through the Orinoco River. So we were in search of tuberculosis, and we found all kind of respiratory problems. And it spent about 18 months growing all throughout the river. We cover about 22,000 kilometers of the river in 18 months.
It's funny that you're here on our show today because a couple of weeks ago we were talking about the vitamin C, the correct vitamin C, and that inadvertently a research scientist was using isoniazid, I believe it is the drug, one of the top tuberculosis drugs used, and finding that it's becoming less effective, and they dumped a little bit of vitamin C in the mix. And then eventually took the drug out, and they saw a drastic improvement in the tuberculin response to just the vitamin C, which that was shocking to him as much as it was for me to hear that.
That's exactly right. Back in the late 90s when I was doing this research with a group of people from Amsterdam, they were very curious in seeing what can we put into the mix to help improve the effectiveness of these medications overall, because the multi-drug resistance was brewing in the background. And vitamin C was one of the first few things when I went to many meetings with them that it was always in the picture. And I'm so glad, there are 2 or 3 studies that have pointed toward that.
Well, now, it's interesting that many of our patients, as ignorant as they can be, because we don't teach them much as doctors, and I'm trying to do something different about that to get the news to all of us as lay people and professionals. Most people, again, without a symptom, they're assuming that they're well, and you have a very unique approach in that you're similar to me in that I know that you have a passion for wanting to do something before they even show up. So here's a question. How might we guide people, those of us who have that cough that we're talking about, even that's a signal that something is wrong? I guess my question is, how do we take first steps to help these people and do more than just wait for isoniazid or another drug that seems to be less effective over the overuse of time?
You're absolutely right. I strongly believe that we need to tackle things early. So we dive in details in the book into that, and we have table summaries at the end of every chapter that they are very, very helpful. Mm-hmm. So one of those tables is dedicated to highlight what are the red flags, or the symptoms, or the combination of symptoms at the end that they raise flags into probably, more significant problems. So we talk about them, the combination of symptoms that point toward pneumonia. If you have fever, increase in the secretion, fever that it goes beyond, 3 to 5 days. So we are too quick to treat fever.
Yes.
And fever is a normal response and is wonderful. We need the fever when we get an attack. So we highlight all this, when people start coughing up blood, when they're developing persistent shortness of breath. So we have specific guidelines for patients to understand when they need to seek some different medical attention. On the other hand, we dive in details into the probably the 80% of the time when people have cough, which is transient, can be easily treated with natural remedies that we have research evidence for each of them, and we have the test of time for them.
Amen. With less than a minute here, I know you have a passion, too, for getting information to people rather than thinking they've got to filter all their information through their doctor, that maybe we can, in ourselves, be better stewards of the body that God gave us. So we're with Dr. Gustavo Ferrer today on Health Quest. The Cough Cure is the name of the book, and the whole point, the cough cures, there may be more than one. And so by the way, Doc, I understand that you made arrangements for us to give some books away to some of our listeners today?
Absolutely.
All right. That is very good. Well, stay with me, Doc. I'm going to hold you over. We've got more to talk about here in Health Quest. It's a Health Quest Saturday morning. You stay right here.
It's Health Quest Radio with your host, Dr. David Kolbaba.
Could your fish oil supplements be weighing you down? Recent reports have shown that many fish are contaminated with heavy metals like mercury, as well as a wide variety of other pollutants. Contaminated fish can mean contaminated fish oil supplements. So how do you know that yours are free of those heavy metals, pollutants, or even radiation? But now you can be certain with our little fish oil, because our little fish oil has gone through the standardized Eurofins process, the most rigorous testing for heavy metals and dozens of other pollutants. And we've gone even a step further, testing for radiation in response to the nuclear disaster in Japan, still dumping radioactive water into the Pacific Ocean. With our little fish oil, you can get all of the health benefits of fish oils without being weighed down by contaminants. Order your bottle of little fish oil today and get 20% off. Just call our Health Quest radio hotline at 800-794-1855. That's 800-794-1855. Call today, 800-794-1855.
If you're a big sports fan like me, sometimes the best part about watching a football game are the pre- and post-game shows. Well, it's the same for probiotics. The most important part of probiotics are the prebiotics and postbiotics that come along. Not all probiotics have this superior combination. That's why I only buy Dr. Ohhira's probiotics. You see, prebiotics feed the probiotic colonies in your intestines, and postbiotics are the organic nutrients produced by Dr. Ohhira's 3-year fermentation process that become the foundation for long-term colonization of the good bacteria in your body. This is so important. No other probiotic formula has this. As I get older, I want to protect my health the best I can and use only the best supplements that are available. So, score a touchdown for your health. Get Dr. Ohhira's probiotics today.
Touchdown!
Dr. Ohhira's probiotics, available at fine health food stores. Don't accept a substitute.
All right, we're back. Thanks for being with us today. A verse I shared from the Old Testament a couple weeks ago, Proverbs chapter 28, verse 9. If you refuse to obey what you've been taught, your prayers will not be heard. And I converted that a little bit in my own mind, thinking about the show today. Feed a cold, starve a fever, what about that nagging cough? It's like, what are we doing that we've got persistent problems? Some of us would say, I don't know what to do. That's why a cookbook. And that's why I say, do not Google your symptoms.
Google your symptoms.
And the point of it is that if you refuse to obey, and I say if you refuse to use what you've learned, then your life will be even more compromised. That's one of the reasons why we have with us this morning Dr. Gustavo Ferrer, a pulmonologist, an author of a new book, which I love this book, Doc. It's one of those, I hate to tell you, but the book frustrates me because there's so many interesting things in this book titled Cough Cures that goes beyond what meets the eye. Like, here's what I'd love to have you explain. It's not off topic, but it's interesting that there's a direct correlation between some of the gastrointestinal issues we have, like reflux and stuff, and how that relates to something we wouldn't even think of. So what are people doing that they're making themselves have this clearing throat, let's say, and it has to do with their gut? Do you want to tell us about that?
Absolutely. Acid reflux or heartburn is one of the top 4 more common reasons for chronic cough. And is, when we get patients into our office, is usually either the main reason, or combined with something that we call postnasal drip, the dripping in the back of the throat. So there are many, many things into this. It goes into the diet. It goes into what we put in the diet. It goes into how many meals we have in the day. And it goes into how can we prevent it. And it goes actually into the treatment that is conventional medicine is using. So it is one of the most common reasons for chronic cough, for sure.
Well, and I was thinking the proton pump inhibitors like Prevacid and Prilosec, we would tell somebody, you better take this stuff if you get reflux because you may get cancer. Now they're finding that these proton pump inhibiting drugs actually are creating certain forms of cancer. But so we need to know, like in your book you mentioned smoking and drinking alcohol, even chocolates and mints and caffeine, all these things can really not only create a cough, but be the result of other problems that you may not connect or correlate. Now, with the cold and flu, many of us do associate sinuses and such. And I know we're not cookbookers here, but we do want people to know about some things they can do. And I know our friends at Clear have nasal products that are wonderful, and you are associated with that. So tell us about that association and why you're so strong on the Clear products.
We're very strong on the Clear product because for decades we have used saline to treat nasal obstruction, plugins in the nose, and even for my patients that have oxygen. But we always have the problem that saline tend to dry the passages and create bleeding afterwards. Yeah. And it's usually related because the pH, the acidity of the saline is low, and it tends to burn in the long run. Well, the Clear product has xylitol in there that balance the pH and also helps maintain the humidity, and it's also an antimicrobial. So it is excellent. There are track records and evidence for that, and we use them more and more for our patients. So.
All right, and so we're talking about Clear sinus nasal products available at the Vitamin Shoppe, Whole Foods, Sprouts, and other fine health retailers nationwide. Even in Target, CVS, I think I've seen it too. And your book now, titled Cough Cures, and again, there's an immensity of information in this book, and it's really a good textbook. And what I'd like to do, I know you're giving us a few copies to share with our listeners. What I'm going to do, Doc, I'm so enthused about this book. And you know what? You wrote in common English, which to me, it's a doable book that allows for a person to apply what you've put between the covers. And what we're going to do, if you don't mind, I'm going to add your book to our winter survival kit as a reading resource. I hope you don't mind, but
absolutely.
Yeah, we just have to do it. Again, I believe you've got a passion for having people take up the cross for themselves and be a better steward of their own bodies.
That's right. We enjoy doing that.
Well, thank you for being with us, Doc. I appreciate your time. And again, I want our listeners to know that they can get your book, Cough Cures, at Barnes & Noble or even Amazon, from what I understand, too. But, of course, you can call our Health Quest Radio hotline, 800-794-1855, and see if you can be one of our lucky callers today for a copy of Dr. Ferrer's book, Cough Cures. Thanks again, Doctor, for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You bet.